Okay, it looks like we are live. Let's see here. Private chat and then comments. Okay, we got our comments. So great. Well, good evening. I am here with my friend Jaleel Brown. Many of you know me. I'm not going to go into a long introduction, but we are here to just talk, have a conversation. Those of you in the church community, Jaleel and I, we're church kids. You know, we've been in church all of our lives. I'm going to kick it. Jaleel, tell the folks a little bit about yourself.
Appreciate you. Thank you for having me. So my name is Jaleel. I am a creative, multifaceted creative, from design to media, musician, branding, helping churches with strategy, not just in creative space, but just strategy overall about next steps, and of helping them fulfill their mission. And so thanks for having me. I'm excited to have this conversation and just ready to dive in.
Awesome. I'm happy to have you here because I'm so privileged to honor to have met you when I moved to Fredericksburg. And, I'm trying to look for people to work with music. What do I do as far as recording? Jaleel he's a marketing genius. And then him having that insight into churches and ministry and research. He's a walking GPT, if you will. He really is. Just a little bit about my background. I've spent my career in media as a journalist, church baby, grew up in the church. I'm a professional musician, author, all that good stuff. And I love the church. Both of us, we have a love for the church. And so Jaleel and I often connect about media stuff, social media, marketing, live streaming, all that kind of stuff. So this week and last week, I think we kind of got into some conversation about live streaming. And that's a hot topic right now. And so one of the posts, and Jaleel, I know you'll elaborate about this, that caught my attention was a ministry or several ministries making the decision to cut live streaming altogether. And one of the primary reasons that I saw was that they think it's affecting church attendance, that we perhaps have gotten a little lazy. Hey, we get it on live stream. But I think we have to dig into this a little deeper, go back to COVID and talk about that and talk about what we're seeing with church attendance in general. So Jaleel, what are some of your early thoughts about that?
So let me be clear. The views and opinion are mine and mine only.
Yes.
They are not associated with any of the clients or churches that I serve, nor the church that I belong to. So I just want to throw that out there.
Yes.
I'll first say this. I believe every pastor has to do what's best for his house. So I'll start there. Now, whether the masses agree or not, that pastor knows what works in that context. I think I believe digital ministry is essential. I would not suggest ending the live stream for several reasons. And we can talk about that later, but my stance is I think it's essential. I'll be honest. One of the things for myself is our sound check is at 8:30 on Sundays. And if we have baptism, we kind of push it back 8:45 or 9 o'clock because our service starts at 9:45. And I enjoy getting up in the morning, and at 8 o'clock, I know Alfred Street and First Baptist Church of Glenarden start at 8, but I know New Zion Temple start at 8:30.
Yes.
So I love the start of the service at New Zion Temple, from the transition from the prayer to the praise and worship or worship through song segment. That I just love starting off Sundays in those spaces.
Yes.
And so for me, I like the fact that some of the ministries that are leading the way in the digital space, we didn't know anything about before COVID. We weren't quite aware of that these ministries existed. And now we're able to not only watch, but we're able to sow seeds into that ministry to help them continue to keep the level of excellence online. And so for me, that's just one example of why I think streaming is essential. And like I said, we can dive into the other things later, but I do believe that every pastor has to do what's best for his church. But
Yes,
it
and I'm
also,
so glad you said that.
yeah, but I also would parallel that with um bef- before we stop or say we're going to cut something, have we evaluated all factors, because all levels aren't the same, right? So if we say, hey, we want to stop because people aren't coming back to church, that may have nothing to do with the live stream. They may not know your church exists.
Mm.
This is taking another approach. Has it become that we've just expected people to come to service with no intentional planning of services anymore?
Mm.
So when people say I'm gonna sit at home, maybe they're not at home. Maybe they're just not at your church. And so I think it's so many other things we can say, that it's not just streaming that are taking people away from being in a specific building. Um, I don't think we can just isolate it to that one thing, and I'll leave that there for now.
No, I think you brought up several things that you said really resonate. I want to, one, I love the fact about every church has to do, we really got to focus on that. Every church pastor has to do what's best for their house. But I want to go back to COVID.
Okay.
Because many churches, because okay, before COVID, let's just be honest, there were a lot of churches saying that Facebook, social media, oh, that's the devil. And people like us, we were saying to them, hey, you might want to get ready and start doing some social media preparing. No, we'll leave that to the other folks. But then everything is shut down. No one expected the pandemic. And I don't think I would have ever known of a Bishop Brandon Jacobs. Bishop Brandon Jacobs got me through the pandemic. I mean, Bishop Brandon Jacobs, Spirit and Truth, all these ministries that we might not otherwise have heard of. And then when you talk about church attendance, so I just took a peek at some of the research. I know you are far more in tune with the research, and it was interesting. They even said Christian attendance, not even talking about non-church people we put in that bucket, that it's down like 50%. But I don't want to get into the numbers too much. But is it going too far? I think leaders are frustrated and they're trying to come up with solutions, rightfully so. But and I know, and I also read that, well, we're not totally cutting out streaming as an option for those people who are disabled and they really can't come. They will provide a private link, which I think that is good. I think what's also pushing this new school of thought is these viral moments. We can't talk about this, Jaleel, without getting into some of these viral moments. And I think later on we're going to get into, well, what are some things that ministries can do to avoid these, well, maybe they don't happen at all, but unintended imagery that's getting out there and misinterpreted by people who really don't understand in the first place what's going on in that particular house. Do you want to touch on that?
Yeah, so let's go back for a second, because
Okay.
you glided right over a point. Let's dive into where you said you mentioned you just said it. Oh,
Was it the
providing a private link for members.
mm-hmm.
Now this is where that bothers me. You still have to have a team to stream. So if the reason was, like, we can always say, well, people on, people just watching from home. It could be that your stream just ain't good. Let's be honest. It could be bad cameras. It could be lack of clarity from camera angles. It could be low quality video. It could be a plethora of reasons. But if you're gonna give a link, it's almost like I got to get permission to watch the service now. Now you're creating more systems, right? Because if Miss Jones needs the link because she's in the nursing home, but then
Right.
Brother John need the link because he got to work today. But then Sharon need the link because she on family vacation. Now there's more people that have to get something if you don't have a consistent stream key or a Zoom link or something that is permanent. You can just hit play. You still have to have a team to manage those systems, so it's easier just to go ahead and stream. Now, if the issue is lack of volunteers, if the issue is lack of skilled individuals, then that's something we can work on. We can scale back. We don't have to try to be the Wheelers and the Alfred Streets and the
Right.
New. We don't have to do that. And so my thoughts are, you know, I just think it makes more work when we say, well, submit why you can't. I submitted a book to my church, put it in this nice little thing a couple of
Nice.
months ago. And one of the things that I shared with them, and I'll pull up the page, it was talking about um, reasons why, we can always say, oh, people are lazy, so they don't come to church. No, that could be one group.
Hmm.
But there are other groups who have chronic illnesses or are disabled. There's some old age or frailty, immune compromised, or health risks.
Yeah.
And we always say, if you sick, stay at home. Short-term illness or rehab, caregiving duties. We know with the way finances are in the economy, a lot of people are taking care of their parents or move their parents in with them, and so they could have a great week and we can come to church, or it could have been a rough weekend and it's just not feasible today. And
Right.
we submit the form to get the link. So I think caregiving, I think child care pops up.
Yeah.
Um, does your child have nursery? Does your church have nursery? Or for parents, whose child is on the spectrum or special needs, or and the church isn't suitable for the
Yeah.
kids to be in the main sanctuary. I think those questions come up. I think
Yes. Yeah, you're bringing up a lot of things that I don't think we traditionally think about. And it's kind of easy to say, yeah, folks are just being lazy. They don't want to come to church. So,
I mean
hey,
we
let's
we
just yank that live stream. We're going to force them to come, back
we
to church.
one thing I know about my church specifically and our young adults is their work schedules. They've had to pick up
Mm,
part-time jobs. So they work on
mm,
Saturdays and Sundays now. Work Monday through Friday, their main job, and doing, 10, 11-hour shifts on Saturday and Sunday to make extra funds to make ends meet. We can talk about our young adults going to college. It's
mm.
not fair that them kids shouldn't be connected or to be, of course, get in a local body where you can, but
Right.
you should still be able to connect with your home church all throughout. Military or deployment or relocation. Sometimes it's not by choice that we leave. It's we're required to leave due to our positions that we've made oaths to maintain. We could talk about lack of transportation
Mm.
because if the economy is struggling, prices are going up. You know, these are decisions you have to make.
But the
You
church
know
will say, hey, we got church vans. We'll
that
come
we
pick
don't
you up.
that we don't even use to pick people up like we used to. I remember when I was an undergrad at Virginia State, there was at least 12 church vans every Sunday morning parked over by Virginia Credit Union every Sunday. And I
Hmm.
don't see that nowadays
Yeah.
as intentional.
Yeah.
We could say business travel or vacations. We could say temporary homebound situations like members recovering, um, postpartum mothers, outpatient surgeries, those in quarantine. Those are just a few things that I was sharing with my church through this document about how we can consider those. Now, how would it be if that applied to 25-30% of our church at any
Mm.
given season? And now we have to manage who has access, who doesn't have access, who should be able to watch, who shouldn't be able to watch. Let's just put the message out there. Now, I do agree. Everything cannot be
Right.
online. I
Right.
100% agree with that. I think you have to have a team. It has to be synergy between
Yeah.
your media production, communications, wherever you group that area over there in alignment with the pastor and leadership. There's some moments we can say, hey, we've streamed the service. Mark Moore did it Sunday.
Hmm.
I was driving to Raleigh last night and I said, I want to hear the elf sermon.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I watched the service all the way through.
I got to
And
catch it because I meant to go back and
well,
catch it as well.
they didn't stream that part.
Mm.
That part's not online. And so I'm like, okay, I get it. I watched the whole service up until where the sermon would be. And he said it. He said we've altered our service so that people online can still be a
Right.
part, but this movie is for this. And I respected that. But again, I think it's making those intentional shifts
Yeah.
so that we can still reach the online audience. But this particular piece that I want to dive in here is an in-person subject matter. Let's do that. And so, like I said, I think it's just important that we have those tough conversations
Yeah.
about what are the cues to cut streams. What
Yeah.
are the when should we do it? In having that relationship with your
Right.
pastor, or the creative freedom and trust to say, "Hey, pastor, I cut the stream. Or I muted the stream." Sometimes you don't even have to cut it. You just need to know when to mute it and go to something else. And that comes to
I love that. If I can interject before we get too deep, please put a pin on that because I want to talk about that. But I want to go back. My mind is blown as you were going through that list of considerations. I didn't even think about some of the things that you listed about people who are in this economy. Some people are just tired. And then I know old school, they say, oh, you make time for everything else. But when it comes to God, here you go. You're tired, but you could do everything else. But the reality is, in this economy, many people are working one job, two jobs, three jobs. And suppose it's a single parent headed household. Then you mentioned so many other layers. There's so many layers to this. So cutting the live stream is not as simple as, hey, we need to cut it because people need to come back to church. Who are we really impacting? And so now they'll probably, you might have had some loyal live stream listeners. And then I don't know, how does that translate into contributions? Because I know church contributions overall, they're down. So there's that. Now, back to where you were. I love that. Because it speaks to, you got to have the right people on your media team who are sensitive to the service. And I know sometimes our churches are so large now, we hire people. And if you want to say hire people from the outside, because we want the best. And I'm not saying we can't get the best within our ministries, but sometimes we can't. Sometimes we hire outside. But when we bring in outside media people, are they really sensitive to ministry, to know and to build the trust with the leadership? Oh, this does not need to be live streamed. Let me cut the live stream and go to something else. And Jaleel, I know you've been doing this a long time. Can you talk a little bit more about that and help some ministry that might listen to this on replay about how to navigate those waters?
Yeah, I think it's having those tough conversations. Oftentimes in church, I think we're reactive and not proactive. And so we don't have the conversation because we don't think it's us. We didn't think we would be that viral church for a negative reason. We didn't think it would be us because we didn't cut the stream off or we didn't have an alternative, which is why the churches that I talk to and consult with, it's more so of preparation. So whether it's our online chat host being prepared, whether that's an internal communication thread on a GroupMe or Microsoft Teams or a Slack or a Monday or any type of way where our teams can get direct messaging to the next person about what's coming up or what we could do. I think one of the beauties of like a pro presenter or a proclaim or easy worship is the ability to shift to something that's already pre-recorded to handle these moments. And you can put them in folders.
That's so smart.
So if there's a technical difficulties or if the iMag system goes out or whatever it is that affects the stream, if it's just a moment in the sanctuary, you could just mute the audio coming in from your soundboard and turn the audio on the channel that's hooked up to that laptop running your pro presenter, proclaim, worship, or if it was PowerPoint. That could all run itself. And so you can have content so people aren't leaving, but the moment doesn't get lost. And
that is so smart.
Yeah. Not only that, but you can always delete a live. Like end it and delete it, and it's gone. So before people have time to go back to the service, we make it private. If you make it private immediately after you end your service, then you can go back and cut to where that moment happened and either take that out or just leave the service up until then. So I think there's so many.
That's a good point, because I often wonder why those lives, those controversial lives, why they stay up. Then I wonder, I said, well, I wonder because they do earn money from the lives. Do you think that's why they tend to stay up and they don't take them? I mean, I've seen cases where they will take them down, but I like that. And that's why you do what you do and why churches need to consult with you, because I love it because you have worked with churches across the country and all size congregations, and I think they need to know this, that one, it's very critical that you have those proactive conversations with your team, because I mean, I've been in some services in the past where I cringed because, oh my God, we're live and somebody's laid out, stretched out on the floor and they foaming at the mouth, and I'm like, oh Lord. And I'm one of those people, my brain, because I am a strategist. And so, yes, I'm in the service, I'm praising God and so forth. But that strategist side of my brain is going like, oh my God, these people have to go to work in the morning. Suppose their boss sees this. I mean, everyone doesn't understand. And so to avoid all the controversy that we've been seeing lately on live streams, but I think that is so good. And Jaleel, you are going to drop your information in the chat so that people can reach out to you, because I highly recommend, whether you're a small storefront ministry or a large ministry, you need to talk to this man, because one, I think we can agree, especially after just what we've talked about already. Again, everyone has to do what's best for their house, but it's a multi-layered issue when you say, we're just going to cut our live stream. Now, on that topic, Jaleel, I also see conversation where there's a faction that says, well, certain people shouldn't live stream anyway if they don't have the latest and greatest technology equipment. What are your thoughts about that? Because, you start where you can start, and you build from there. But what are your thoughts? Because, we see all levels on social media. And what would you say to those ministries who feel like, well, we're streaming, but we don't feel like we're just there yet?
Just remember why you're streaming.
Yeah.
Like, it's not to be like the next church. It's to share the message, invite people to get to know the God we serve. And so if you just have an iPhone, be excellent with your iPhone. If you have 6K cameras, be great with your 6K cameras. But there's enough tools available nowadays for everybody that I think excellence is a choice, and we choose not to be because we are so concerned about the next guy instead of just being great at what we're called to do. And I think oftentimes people can tell they're trying too hard. They're like it loses its authenticity. And I think that's what people are looking for now, is authenticity versus perfection.
That's so good.
And so that's some of the things that I kind of see my church specifically. When we started streaming, it wasn't the church streaming. I was just recording the passive messages on my Facebook page because I felt like people should see it. When we got to the pandemic, we had to then still use my phone. Then we translated to an iPad. Then we translated to StreamYard. Then we got into OBS. Then we got into Boxcat. It was like a slow progression. But at least for a year, we were just trying to figure out how to make it work, how to set some type of baseline and standard. So it wasn't like an overnight fix. And we didn't have major resources to get us where we thought we should be faster. And so it was a slow grind, but we had the end goal in mind. And we're still learning and progressing and growing as we speak. But we have made significant progress from the iPhone, to now Blackmagic cameras.
I've seen it. I go every time I come to your church. It's like, wow. What do you have? 4 cameras now, and you have the big, studio control room. Yeah, it's excellent, awesome. I like that, Jaleel, and I love the part about, and I hope this encourages smaller ministries specifically out there. If you are just using an iPhone or you're just using a tablet, do it with excellence. You know, you can get you a 2 light setup. If you're in a storefront, a smaller space, get it off Amazon and just use what you have and be the best that you can until you can do better. But don't get bullied by the online banter that's saying, you're not here yet and you don't have this equipment and you need to hire an engineer. You know, they don't have budget right now to hire an engineer. So there's some basic things. And again, that's what Jaleel Brown does. He helps these churches make the best use of the small resources that they have, you know? So I love that. So yeah, and I mean, there's still banter going on about the live stream. And so where do you see live stream going in the future? Jaleel, I mean, do you think we're going to see a groundswell of churches? Because I saw a few churches follow suit and say, yeah, we're backing off the live stream. It's done.
That's a loaded question. 2 parts. One, I saw a young lady post this week, and she said live streaming is here to stay. It's no longer a temporary solution. It's a legitimate extension of the church. And I agree. So let me say this. If you again, on Sunday mornings I watch Alfred Street, First Baptist, and New Zion Temple before I get to my church. Because the praise and worship be bumping. And like if I'm upstairs getting ready or in the shower or getting breakfast or whatever, like I like their praise and worship. Like it's good. It's good. So what happened was I was watching, this is no lie, I was watching Alfred Street. And when I had flipped from like First Baptist Praise and Worship to the Alfred Street service, it was maybe like 8:22 maybe in the morning. All right, now if you know Alfred Street, they had 3 services.
Right.
6 p.m. on Saturday, 8, and then 11.
Okay.
On Sundays. And so Pastor Wesley had got up and he was, one of the things we do here at Alfred Street is we have interns for the summertime. And it was 9,000 people watching at 8 in the morning, 8:22. And he got up and it blew my mind. He said, and this morning we had one of our interns preaching.
Oh, wow.
By the time she started preaching, it was 12,000 people watching. And so what I'm saying is the online, like the church was packed. Like, couldn't nobody else get in the church. So if we're packing out our churches and then 12,000 more people that couldn't even be in the space if they wanted to or watching online, why would we cut something for people who are hungry for what's being delivered at that ministry? That's just the 8 o'clock service. They could choose, or they could be going to their own ministry at 10 or 11 or 12 or 5 or 6 that day. It doesn't mean they don't have a local community. It just means they enjoy the 8 o'clock service at Alfred Street. And if that leads to seeds being sown because or offerings being given because I like this ministry and I'm still tithing at my church, I don't see why we would cut something that's blessing people. And we can visibly see the numbers that say, it's not like we're getting 12,000 people because TD Jakes was preaching. We're getting 12,000 when it's an intern. And so all I'm saying is trying to explain to churches that it's not a one size fits all, because you have churches like Wheeler Avenue. The young man said, I got there an hour early and I had to sit at the last row on the balcony.
Exactly. I love that. That is a perfect example. And as you were talking and you used that word hungry, even though in-person church attendance may be down, I don't think there's been a time where people have been more hungry for God. I mean, you look at everything happening in the world now. I think this is not the time, I agree, to cut live stream. Yes, there are challenges, but I think, as we said earlier, this is where you bring your team together and you discuss these things, and you have to be proactive how we handle this. If this pops up, we got to be at the ready. But the potential, even the one, as the Bible talks about, the potential to reach that one. So, Yeah, I was concerned when I saw that and I saw people following suit. And I get it. Ministries have been burned by it. But I think going back to that word proactive and being the best, maybe we've done too much to try to be like this church, that church. But I think there's too much hunger out here now to be cutting ourselves off.
Yeah, I even saw this one youth that goes to our church. I don't even know his name. He joined a few months ago, and I hadn't seen him at church in a long time. And I was like, man, I wonder what happened to the young guy. Nice guy, came with his grandma. And I just happened to go to Dunkin' Donuts to get my favorite drink after church, Berry Burst Energy from Dunkin' Donuts, large. It's
Yeah.
and I went over there, and he was working. And so I said, he's not here because he's working on the weekend.
Bingo.
And I said, man, how important is it that we're intentional about what we're capturing, what we're showing, that we're starting on time? We don't know what opportunities that allows him to evangelize, to
Yeah.
disciple at work. Be like, yo, my church is on the app, yo. We can play this, or y'all got y'all AirPods, or yo, check this link out. Like
Yeah.
can, if we teach or we educate or we go back to the basics, the fundamentals
Oh, I
of
love it.
evangelism and discipleship, using digital tools are just an asset to sharing the message. And I think sometimes we're so in the deep about the details of who's not that we forget who is.
Yeah.
And I've just seen, once one person says it, oh, I agree. People need to get back in the building. Get back in the building. They lazy. I said, yes, that is a small portion. But there's
Small.
a greater percentage that's not in that group. And we shouldn't be the ones to judge their situation. It's
Exactly.
not our place.
Exactly.
And so I definitely see pastors that say, yeah, let's stop it. And I definitely see pastors that said there's no way we can stop it.
Right.
And I mean,
Right.
again, I think it's whatever works for your ministry. But I think it's valuable. And let's say this, the church is always behind.
Mm.
We took forever to get to streaming because we were forced to.
Right.
The world was already doing that stuff. It's almost like the church has blockbuster syndrome.
Hey, oh yeah, that's a perfect analogy. Yeah.
It Radio Shack syndrome.
Yes.
Hold on what
Yes.
we know. And again, as the messaging has changed, like when from 8 tracks to cassettes,
Yep.
VHS,
CDs.
to CDs, to DVDs, to now MP4s, to on demand, to Netflix. Like the world continuously evolves, and then we just say we got to do it how we used to do it. Well,
Right.
let's say this: if your church is one of the ones who wanted to stop streaming, have you stopped being intentional about service? And we just do it because it's Sunday at 10 o'clock and the service should start. Mind you, back in the day when we used to have bulletins, that
Yeah.
bulletin had everything in it. The
It did.
announcement had been submitted, who was doing the prayer, who was doing the scripture, who was preaching, like it was there. And I said, we kind of got into the run sheet and planning center now. We kind of laid back, but have we stopped being intentional about our services and see
Yeah.
a decline? Because again, if you're not tracking numbers,
Right.
what's working for your church, you can't say that it's the same reason why the next church isn't working if we don't have
Exactly.
data to show how many people are coming every Sunday. You don't really know if they're your members or not. They could just be coming in the door, they're not your members. So giving can't directly correlate to the doors being open if everybody is going to digital giving. That doesn't mean they're not in the building. I could be in the building and put my tiles on auto every 2 weeks. And it don't
Right.
whether I'm there or not, it happens, but it's a digital platform. And so I'm just curious if we use all of the variables to say this is why said thing isn't working anymore. I'm not sure if we've done that much research and homework.
That is so good. You blow my mind every time I talk to you about this stuff. This is amazing. Yeah, because if people put their giving on auto pay or whatever, that doesn't necessarily correlate to church attendance. So it's easy to take this broad brush and say, attendance is down and contributions are down. We're just gonna force people. We drop the line, so we're going to force people back into the seat. But as you stated earlier, we really need to do a deep dive into why folks aren't there. And maybe this is where we go back to, you remember those phone calls you would make, hey, we haven't seen you, checking on you. How you doing? And then that's when, yeah, I've been working, had to work weekends, and, Sunday comes around kind of tired. And so.
But you can't do that without effective systems.
Mm.
That's the problem that I learned with churches, is that we don't want to do the dirty work of creating systems that will allow us to know where our people are.
Ooh.
Because if we're saying, man, church attendance is down, or viewing is down, or people are being lazy, have we asked every person that we haven't seen, or do we not even know who's not showing up?
Ooh.
So again, now we're talking about the sizes of churches. If you got 8,000 member church and you got 15 services a weekend, you have to have a system that breaks those into micro groups, whether that's by age, whether that's by locality, whether that's by interest, whether that's by last name, whatever that is. But if you got a church with 100 people, and then we see only 50 showing up, and then it's not 50 people streaming, then online ain't the issue.
Oh, that's so good.
I just encourage churches to, before you strike a thing or demonize it, like we did social media before COVID. Oh, it was the devil. We can't do this. Don't do it. And then when we didn't have a choice, it was, oh, thank God for the internet.
Yes.
I'm so glad our Safari is working. Whatever. It's like it changed quickly because it was a necessity.
Right.
But then if we're to go to the highways and hedges and we don't have no outreach budget, it's free. And again, so I challenge churches to take a deeper look than scratching something off the surface. If we get rid of this, it's going to fix our problems. Because the majority of churches, if you cut off online, the people ain't coming to your church.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I thought it was so important that we have this conversation, because I think the thought pattern is that 1 + 1 = 2. Let me cancel this out, and then boom, they'll have no choice, because it's going to create this thing. What happened? Well, you should have been there. If you've been there, you know what happened, and it's not that simple. I think this has been a really, really good conversation. I'm going to urge people to share. I know we'll get some people on the replay. And Jalil, please drop your information in the chat. I really want, you can trust Jalil. Jalil is very, very well respected, which is why I wanted to have this conversation with Jalil. And if you are a church and you're at that crossroad of trying to determine whether or not live streaming is providing some value for your ministry, or what you could do differently, I would urge you to reach out to Jalil so that he can consult with you and walk you through this. That there's no one else I would recommend. I mean, his knowledge, well, you heard it for yourself on this call. So please put your information in the chat. Anything that you think we should close out with? I think we've hit on some very good points. The main thing is, I think the message, the takeaway is, not so fast. Let's consider all of the variables. And regardless of the size of your ministry, it's about excellence. Even if you just have one iPhone, one iPad, whatever you have, if you're in that small storefront, just do it with excellence until you can go to that next level. Stop trying to compete with the next church. Use what you have and be the best that you can be in the space that you're in right now. Any closing thoughts, Jalil?
No, ma'am. That's it. I appreciate you for having me.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
enjoy doing this. As you can see, I'm a student of understanding the church and how we can better align
Yes.
in the big scheme of things, not just from the streaming space, but even one thing that I'm working on with my church currently is our loophole, our gaps in our processes. Is that we assign ministry tasks to ministries and we assume they don't overlap. But then if you really, really take a second, a lot of those overlap. And if there's a gap, we lose the opportunity to build meaningful relationships. And what I mean
Mm.
is, let's say you have a person that visits your church for the first time and they fill out a connect card. Well, what does that process look like? And how do you integrate your church management system so that
Mm.
if they join, you don't have to start over? You just change them from a visitor to a member because the
Ah,
data would be in there because they gave you the information to set up a profile already.
right.
So what does it look like to connect with people? How long do you connect with them? What's
Mm.
that follow through? If you're online chatting, you fill out the connect card. Well, does that card mirror the data that's on your physical card?
Mm.
Because a lot of us don't have a staff that can do the first touch team or the new
Yeah.
disciple team, or like there's not enough staff to do all of that. So investing in systems or tools that have systems that already explain this stuff. So I was explaining to my church, you know, um, if we're not intentional, we can't expect that people understand the processes that we created that we don't understand.
Mm. That's good.
And so that's one of the things we've been looking at over the last few weeks. Are we being intentional with sharing information, connecting with people, and making sure that there is no gaps in our next steps? Because people do not have to give you their personal information, and we take
Yeah.
it for granted as a church that people give it to us because we ask for it. But they're not.
Right.
They're not. We're not entitled to get it from them. It's an
Mm.
ask,
Right.
and I think sometimes we lose sight of that. And so if we're not intentional or show that we're going to use it effectively, people get
Yeah.
turned off. And so
Exactly.
yeah, I would encourage churches to dig a little deeper.
Right. And those processes, it's always the systems and the processes. That's the other key point that you really highlighted that, and I love that. So this has been wonderful, Jaleel. I appreciate you doing this, and we're looking to push this out for the replays. And I was thinking here, I don't know if the church is ready yet, but I think we might want our next step. We might need to talk about AI. I don't know if they're gonna be ready for our AI discussion.
I don't know if I'm ready for the AI discussion.
Because
Yeah,
that we were just trying to get them comfortable with social media, and live streaming, and they're definitely saying AI is the devil.
yeah, I definitely think it has place. I specifically will share this and I'll be done. I use it specifically weekly for our sermon clips.
Mm-hmm.
To just clip our pastor, I'll tell it what sections, I'll kind of give it a description, and I have our church's brand template already in there. But
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that showed me that was working was we had two ladies join our church within 3 weeks that said the same exact thing. I I had to I came here because I found y'all online. I saw your preacher preaching, and I had to see this if this was real in person. I had to
See,
be here for this.
see,
I just used AI, and of course, you have to know how to prompt. I think if we're going to talk about AI, then the subtitle needs to be prompt engineering 101. Because if you don't
yes,
understand how to prompt, then nothing else matters.
get it.
And so after doing like my Microsoft cohort for the Department of Commerce, and then deep diving onto some more prompts with the Church and Technology Summit, I'm like, yo, it's a tool if you know how to use it in your church's voice, not
Exactly.
just asking it to produce something, and it gives
Right.
you something that doesn't align with you. But yes, um, AI has worked for my church because I saw people join, and I've actually saved it and screenshotted it and put it in the same document and told my church on the first Sunday in June. Do you remember
Mm,
the lady that joined church? And I said exactly what she says about how online and the live stream or the sermon clips
right.
help her want to be there.
That's
Like,
powerful.
I mean, I was like, man, to me, that was a Sunday where our cameras could have been a little sharper. We could have been a little quicker with the online prompts or the lower third. But again, people didn't see that. They just saw what that was said that reached me. What the choir sung
Exactly.
that touched me. you know,
That's so good. And I think, yeah, we'll talk about AI.
yeah.
I love what you just said there, because a lot of people, when they think AI, they think, oh, it's just Chat GPT and I just ask it to do stuff for me. No, you got to know what you're doing. You got to be strategic and know how to. We won't. There's so much we can get into, but it's exactly what you said.
Yep,
But
yep, yep.
thank you,
You're welcome.
Jalil.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you.
Absolutely would not have it any other way. And to our Facebook, we got Facebook and YouTube on. Thank you for joining, and we'll see you next time. Have a good night, everyone.